Hey everybody, it's your buddy Jay and I am back. Welcome back to AzureFunBytes. My name is Jay Gordon, and what do we do every week? We get together, we do this show, and we do our best to teach you about the services, the people, and the products that make up an amazing Azure experience. And so, we spent a lot of time talking about infrastructure. We've talked about different development methods. We talked about different tools to use, but there's some things that we need to do to make sure that all of that actually comes together and is available to everyone. And when I say everyone, I literally mean everyone. When we build software, when we build services, we need to actually make some consideration into who's going to use them and the way that they're going to experience that use. Because to be honest with you, human beings, we're all unique in our own way. We have our different ways of living. We have our different abilities. We have all these things that I believe is super, super important to integrate into the things that we create. And so that being said, I want you to watch this real quick, and then I'm going to introduce you to my guest.
Technology can make things easier, but it can also make things possible. More than 1 billion people have a disability around the world. And while some disabilities are visibly apparent, others are not. Today, many report experiencing mental health conditions for the first time. The truth is, most of us will experience disability at some point in our lives, temporarily or permanently. Still, people with disabilities face higher unemployment rates, more than twice that of people without. And only 1 in 10 have access to the assistive devices they need to be active in their communities. The COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated this disability divide, with many experiencing symptoms that are lasting for weeks or months after diagnosis. Here at Microsoft, we've been on a journey to design technology with and by people with disabilities. We're learning every day, and people with disabilities are leading the way. Office features now make it easier for millions to create and send accessible, inclusive communications. More opportunities for improving digital skills and learning are available than ever before. And people with disabilities are preparing for an increasingly digital job market. As the world changes, our approach to accessibility is changing too. That's why we're upping our ambition over the next 5 years. Not only do we want to scale accessible and affordable technology, we're investing in skilling opportunities and talent development and doubling down on our promise to build and model inclusive workplaces. But we can't close the disability divide alone. As communities around the world prepare for post-pandemic life, we want others to join this global cause to make society more inclusive. Disability is a strength, and society is stronger when it's accessible to everyone. And while technology can make things possible, people make things amazing. To learn more, visit aka.ms/accessibility-commitment.
I really love that. It makes me kind of misty-eyed because I really do miss the Microsoft campus out in Redmond. I haven't been there in quite a while, and there's some scenes in there that really make me kind of miss being there. But you know what? The other thing that I really miss is being around the people I work with and all the different teams and that are involved in product and cloud advocacy. And so today I'm bringing in someone who I believe is going to be able to help me learn a lot more about today's subject, which is accessibility. His name is Rory, and he comes to me from, I believe, South Africa, correct?
South Africa, Johannesburg. And Johannesburg is the New York of South Africa. And we've got Cape Town, which is the San Francisco of South Africa. So it puts it in perspective.
Well, I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. And I can tell you, I've always enjoyed meeting people from everywhere across the planet, especially doing it this way. And so, Rory, I'm super thankful that you could join me today because I'll be honest with you, that this is a subject that I believe is so important nowadays, if not always. And I think that it's really great to know that it's been kind of prioritized by a lot of organizations. And we're going to talk about how Microsoft and you personally have worked to make a more inclusive environment for everyone.
Thank you, yeah, and I'm really glad to be here. I've seen all of the speakers you've done before, and I'm a little bit competitive. I always like to think that if I went into the Special Olympics, I probably would be kicked off because I would cheat and everything like that. So I really want to show a really good impression for programming for accessibility. Before we start, I'm going to give a voice caption over describing myself. I'm 4 foot tall, so to you metric people, that's 120 centimeters. I have brown hair. I'm in my home studio. I've got headphones here, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt. And that's very important because that captioning allows me to explain to people exactly what they are seeing in case they're visually impaired or neurodiverse. And that's something that Microsoft is doing a lot in their video captioning that and going forward is part of the WCAG 2.1 AA compliancy.
Yeah, I know that we have a chief accessibility officer in Jenny LeFury, who has really gone out and done their best to make this accessibility story here at Microsoft well known. And I think that it's incredible to see how the tide has changed in how people develop software and how things have become more and more considerate. And so there's a thing that I've seen you talk about, and it's the empathy bubble. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that means as far as? Good.
So I'm sitting here in my home office, and one thing that I really battle with, and a lot of people with this COVID climate, they're sitting here and they're working from home, is the comfort, being able to spend a couple of hours a day and do that. So I've got all of these mouse gadgets here. I just bought a Logitech MX3, which is really nifty. I can't reach my keyboard on a good day. And this isn't something that you can actually explain to someone because my arms are pretty short, so I can't reach my keyboard. And I've got this little magic keyboard here. So my bubble really is to have comfort on being able to just use a laptop. So I bought this MX mouse here, and you know what? It occurred to me that I can't actually use it as some other people can because my actual hand doesn't fit on the actual mouse. I am going to find value in it because I did spend a pretty penny on it. So I'm going to find it there. But then I've got the little mouse here, the magic mouse, which is really accessible because I can really put my finger wherever it is. And the empathy bubble says, I love that mouse. For you to be and create software for me, you need to have not pity, and not empathy, but compassion. So the highest form of engagement for your audience. And once you have compassion, you can really understand what those people experiences. And we've seen that with something called Empathy Lab. So one of our partners, you can call them up and say, hey, I want to run an empathy lab. And you get to create these persona spectrums for the people that you want to do. So my persona spectrum would be a limited mobility. And you would create your product. And I remember going through New York airport, and they have these scanners to actually take pictures of you. And I looked at this thing, and it was above me. And I went, sorry, I need some help here. And there was no one to help me because they didn't understand that I was 4 foot tall. So I hijacked an East Asian family that managed to actually lift me up. They took all 4 of them to lift me up to the video camera there, and I took a picture, and then I got into New York with the visa around that, though. But that empathy bubble, and that's unique to me. But the spectrum that I'm in, being short-statured, is the same as someone who is on a wheelchair. Because when I'm standing, I'm at actually the same standing height as someone in a wheelchair. So the eye gaze and all of that is very... So if you look at the empathy bubble, you don't actually have to just design your system just for me. You design for one spectrum, and the spectrum is limited mobility, and then you extend it over. So you extend it for people who have wheelchair access, and you would extend it for me. And that way, you could design your system for everyone. And it's the same with also eyesight. So I don't have limited eyesight. I just need glasses. I've got a bit of astigmatism. I am 42, so I'm hitting my midlife crisis quite well. So you're in the same spectrum as me. So you might have failing eyesight, but we're not limited completely by that. We're in the same spectrum. So you have that compassion, and you extend that over there. And then what you find out is it just takes a few of those persona spectrums, and you can design your tooling much more broadly to everyone, rather than just go, oh, I'm going to design for the 6'1" male, and anyone else who is in that outside of the spectrum doesn't work. Do you know why that doesn't work? In the 1920s, they started designing cockpits in airports. In airlines for planes, and they in the 20s and 30s they designed 4,000 models based on pilots, and they took the average for those pilots. Now then they built in planes, thousands of planes, and they started crashing. And they came back and said to their scientists, please bring in the average person, put him down in the plane, and get him to fly the plane. And he was crashing. And they said, what's happening? They go, that average person doesn't exist. You had to make the plane with all of the tiny permutations of adjustment. And then they realized, wait a second, if they could just make the chairs move a little bit more and adjust, then they could cater for that entire persona spectrum of that 4,000. And we are experiencing that in our day-to-day lives, because cars are built on the same principle. When you get into a car and you have a steering wheel and a car seat and everything, those micro adjustments get past the average around that, and they get to the point that they suit everyone. Now, the car isn't designed for the average. It's designed for everyone to be able to use their tools exactly how they would want to do that. And we're seeing that changing with programming. Nowadays, when you engage with a tool, it kind of senses, wait a second, do you have unique accessible requirements? If so, I'm going to change it. Dark mode being such a huge change in that that degree. With neurodiversity, ADHD, autism spectrum, having light flash against your face constantly. Now we have dark mode, and we have all of these tools and technologies, and people are changing the journey model for everything that we do to accommodate that. So definitely the empathy bubble exists there, but to pop it, we have to be able to become empathetic, and we have to become altruistic of other people's difficulties.
Yeah, I've been investigating and educating myself more on the subject, and I learned about 5 main categories that when we build, we should really consider: vision, hearing, neurodiversity, mobility, and mental health. These are all things that create uniqueness in all of us. There could be something different about one of those things to all of us. And so I think it's important that we use things like assistive technology, AI, even cognitive services to help improve how we actually are able to work together, or how to make things easier for people who aren't just like me. And I think that that's one of the big things that I've learned in trying to get more and more educated around accessibility, is that there was a problem for a long time of software developers building things for people that look and sound and act and have the abilities that they do. And I believe that that's limiting, because when you don't consider others in what you build, then you're limiting who's going to actually have access.
I have a really good quote. If you can just share my screen,
Sure.
I'm going to show you a quote that I have. And in that quote, it's by Bill Gates. And he says, for most of human history, we've put our innovative capacity in improving the quantity of life. Because we're living longer, our focus is starting to shift towards improving the quality of life. And really what that means is that we've been looking at life through a lens of trying to say we want to give people a quality of life via the Industrial Revolution. We want to feed the hungry and clothe the poor and be able to give them that. But then we didn't stop and say, wait a second, we've given them enough of a thing. But now we have to make sure that that thing has value. and the quality of life now can be achieved. We've got technology that rivals. We're using mRNA vaccines to beat back a virus that actually should have conquered the world. We've got tools and technologies in AI that can look at an image better than a human being and explain it. So there's so many different mechanisms, and we're finally getting to that point of quality of life, and we can achieve that. But the only thing that we really need to ask ourselves is money. Because if there was money behind it, then it would be pushed way faster. Now there is money. We've got proof on our Microsoft accessibility sites, and we've got proof that people who focus on accessible software get more revenue. And the reason for that is instead of just creating software for the average, they look at the entire spectrum of people that use it and create it for everyone. For example, the silver generation, the people over the age of 65. Now, that's $1 trillion industry, $1 trillion a year industry that people can actually tap into. These people are at the third quarter of their life, third stage of their life, and they have disposable income, huge disposable income, because they don't have the hassles of having to have all of the things that you and I, Jay, have to pay for on a day-to-day basis. And they have also accessible requirements, eyesight, mobility, neurodiversity, and they're only realizing now that they can tap into that huge revenue stream and be able to become profitable organizations. Now, the same spectrum that is in the silver generation for mobility and eyesight and everything is the same spectrum for people who have, birth accessible requirements, people who are amputees or who have sight issues. But we can't see that until we understand that we have to broaden that spectrum and pop that bubble and cater for everyone. Sure.
That makes a ton of sense. So, Rory, I want you to show me a little bit more. I know you've got some presentation materials ready to go,
yes,
but before you do, I want to remind our viewers of a few things that I think are really super important. One, we've got a poll going. We do a poll every week, and we basically are asking, do you know if your organization is prioritizing accessibility when creating software or services? I know we are here at Microsoft, and I'm going to vote yes. But please go ahead, take the poll. We just want to get a little information from you. And while you're taking that poll, I want you to bookmark something for a little bit later. And you can go to Microsoft Learn and get some free education. We've got this introduction to Azure Fundamentals. It's free, it's fun, it's gamified. I say every week, I'm a level 10 wizard in Azure. I'm hoping to become a grand magus or something like that at some point. So we'll see. And then finally, we've got some actually in the same place, some accessibility fundamentals, of course, that you can take. And so you go to aka.ms/accessibility-fundamentals, and you can start learning alongside with us. So remember, let's take the poll. Let's answer some questions. And if you have questions, please put them in our chat. We've got a couple of different places that I can get your messages from, and I can relay them over to Rory. And I think that your participation is paramount in understanding what people's questions are around this subject. So Rory, thank you very much for giving me a moment to do my little preamble. I appreciate it. And so I really want to get started with your presentation, and I'm going to bring it up right now. But there's something that I want to ask you, and maybe that's what this is going to answer first, is what is accessibility?
I've got a very good slide deck that is going to prove that to you. And I'm going to prove to you that accessibility is not disability. So you can follow me on at Rory Preddy. I do a lot of accessible amplification. I do some memes, and I do some Java advocacy. That's my day job. I actually am a Java developer. And I want to show you a little bit of what's built into PowerPoint. So I'm going to go out of PowerPoint here, and I'm going to click on this image here. And I'm going to right-click on here, and I'm going to go Edit Alt Text. So So I go edit alt text here. Let me just get rid of that. And then this is the story of how accessibility creates innovation. So you can see there I've got a person typing on a Braille keyboard, person typing on a Braille keyboard. And the alt text, if someone reads it with the screen reader, I can type in there person typing on a keyboard, but I can generate a description for me. And this uses Azure Cognitive Services on your M365 tenant. And you can click on that and it'll go generating automatic description and a person typing on a computer. Now, this is really the story I want to show you because we got to that degree better than an actual human being can do. And I'm going to show you some of the AI services there. And I'll show you how innovation leads to increased growth and also via accessibility. So let's carry on with here. Let me make that a little bit bigger. A little bit about me. So I have dwarfism, achondroplasia, so I'm pretty short, 4'1" or 120 centimeters. And I bolt on a lot of things to get through life. So you can see there, those are my midlife crisis car pedals. I drive a BMW 335i. You want to know what to do? Not on a midlife crisis, don't buy a car. It's a terrible, terrible investment. And I get along. He has me lecturing at a university, and I bolted on a chair there to try kind of reach out there. And he has me trying to get coffee. And since the pandemic, I actually have stopped coffee. It's one of my little things that I did there. I'm not drinking decaf though, but I'm very proud of myself. I have not caffeine. That would be madness. I have stopped coffee. And we really get through. And the reason that we bolt-on doesn't work is because we birthed something called the Hydra, and this is a bug Hydra, and developers know this quite well, is that when you push to production and you don't solve the bug, then the Hydra comes out, and when you cut the Hydra's neck off, then another actual Hydra neck is created. Because you can't actually try and fix problems in production. It's a common misconception. The bug costs too much as you progress down the design stage to be able to do it. It's like saying to a car manufacturer, please go and put something after factory. You can't put something after factory because it's already kind of built in. You would have to change that entire design process. And we chatted about the empathy bubble. And you can see here, this person here is not aware of that poor, sad man there. The empathy bubble needs to be popped, because without the empathy bubble being popped, what you're going to do is when you design your accessible software, you're not going to be able to slay the Hydra. There's the Hydra right there. You've got a accessible wheelchair ramp, and right there, you can't get through that. And that the Hydra bug has gone there. Most probably, they just couldn't hit the angle right there, and they didn't do this from beginning. So the plan is, and I'm going to discuss today, we're going to define accessibility, look at some accessibility motivators, legislation, and also altruism. We're going to set achievable interim milestones by looking at DevOps and how to engage with the agile process. We're going to implement tools, and Microsoft is really great with tools. And I'm going to show you a tool that I use every day to actually make my material accessible. And then we're going to measure, improve, and automate, and show you mechanisms around how to do that. So first, and to answer your question, Jay, accessibility is the design of products, services, and innovations so that everyone, including people with disabilities, is not designing for disabilities, can fully experience them. And once you do that, and you look at that persona spectrum, you have inclusive product and service design, and you meet compliance, you reach productivity and innovation. And we've got that now because with our PowerPoint applications and OneNote with Word, we can create accessible software that meets everyone, even people with disabilities. So you can create that accessible software. And we didn't really do that necessarily only for people with disabilities. We did that because you might want to have a description on an image that was very hard to understand. You might also want to be able to document your images and describe them and put them in a catalog. So we did that with cognitive services, and we baked it into Office. And then we got innovation. And right at the end, we're not saying that that's revenue growth. That really is, because with innovation, you get revenue growth, because what you're doing is you're meeting your customers' requirements. Now, accessibility is not disability. If you go to a doctor and you say, I'm not feeling too good, he's going to go, oh no, I think you have the disabilities. It doesn't exist. Now, as part of my midlife crisis, I bought one of those BMI scales. So I jumped on the BMI scale and I put in my weight there. At the time, 65 kilos. I'm actually 50 kilos now because I ketoed for the last year and a half. It's one of also the things that I've done over the pandemic. So I put in my weight there, 50 kilos, and my height 120 centimeters. And I had a little baby like icon and a huge adult male icon. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do here? I'm more of a baby than I am a huge 6'5" man. So I put the baby in there and I jumped on the BMI scale barefoot and it did a little AI calculation. And it came back and said, you should be dead. And it it insulted me. It actually called me names. I'm not even going to mention them on air there, Jay, but it called me names. And I felt a little bit bad because I felt disabled. You know, I remember that moment of there that, you know, I looked at a product and they had created a mismatched human interaction for me. A product that they had promised me that would help me through a health issue that I was trying to lose weight had made me feel disabled. And that's something we really can't let happen. And that's what Microsoft actually understands. We look at all of the products and services and we say that we want to make the experience glorious and easy for people to use, even if they can't use our products exactly like the norm, because the norm doesn't exist. The average doesn't exist. We want to tweak it ever so slightly to accommodate people's abilities and make them not feel disabled. Now, you mentioned there the WCAG accessibility design principles, which is perceivable, operable, understandable, robust, and recently neurodiverse also. So perceivable, can you see it? Operable, can you use it? So my little Logitech Spotlight presenter here really helps me so I don't have to carry on reaching over there, so I can actually use the mouse there. And this is really operable and it helps me use my PC in that way. Understandable, can you understand it? You know, if you have a mouse pointer and it kind of moves up and down, you might actually upset people who are neurodiverse. So you need to make it understandable. And then robust, it won't break future technologies. If you've got a phone and you have landscape and you put it to portrait, it might break. And that's something that scalable design showed that, you know, people who have accessibility requirements usually use their phone in a landscape mechanism. And if they go to portrait, it shouldn't actually break. So those are the WCAG principles. So let's look at some motivators. So first of all, the legislation, the US 21st Century Digital Experience Act and the EU Parliament Directive on Digital Accessibility says that all publicly facing civil websites by this year have to be WCAG 2.1 compliant. Or, like Canada has implemented, you get a $100,000 fine per day. They are shutting down businesses right now. If you're a civil-facing website or government-facing website, they are shutting you down. And remember what GDPR did? And it ruined the internet overnight. Pop up, do you agree? Pop up. Accessibility is going to do the same. And we don't want the stick to say legislation. We want the carrot. And the carrot is the quote that Bill Gates said, that we should actually be doing this because we want to improve people's quality of life.
Yeah, we shouldn't always just feel obligated because of regulation to do things. And that even was the case with GDPR, I think. We weren't just Europe wasn't just implementing it because it was a thing to do. It was supposed to help make people and businesses' lives easier by protecting their data.
It ruined the internet. Literally, overnight, absolutely. The whole experience was just terrible. So once you have that altruism, you get awareness of others' difficulties and emotional engagement, and you hit that compassion. Now, we've touched on persona spectrum. So here's Claudia and Ashley and Ron. And Claudia uses a screen reader. She's severely sight impaired. Now, you take that persona spectrum and you actually create an empathy lab. And the UK government has alphagov.github.i/accessibility personas. It has these persona spectrums you can use, and they're very well known, and you can create them. So you can have, let's just say, Rory with limited mobility goes onto a laptop and it can't actually reach the keyboard. And you can create them. So you design your products around not just one or two spectrums, but those perspectives that are very well known and cover quite an extensive range. And these all form part of exclusive design. So you recognize your exclusion. You recognize you excluded Claudia from that or myself from your usage of that. Then you solve for one, extend to many. Remember the silver generation example here. So if you solve for one perspective, which is a silver generation with limited eyesight, you might also help people who are have visibility issues or really bad eyesight. And then you learn from diversity. You look at, wait a second, you solved for the problem. Now come back. Have we actually met the customers? And you look at accessibility help desk surveys, and you backtrack and say, yes, it does work. Like the aircraft team did in the 1920s. They didn't carry on crashing airplanes. They actually went in there and said, it's not working, we're going to adjust that. It's also very similar when people started designing airbags. They weren't actually designed for women. So as a result, a lot of women were dying in car crashes because the seat height was too high and they were too close to the seat. So they started looking at stereoscopic steering wheels. So you could bring the steering wheel in and out. And as a result, it really catered for more of the persona spectrum. So here's an example that I want to show you, and we're going to superimpose that on a journey of a common airline ticket purchasing process. So this is an amputee, someone born without an arm or had to have their arm amputated and over to there. And then they're in the same spectrum as someone with an arm injury. And that is in the same spectrum as a new parent. And I know what you're saying. Wait a second, the new parent can't be, in the same perspective, but I'm a new parent. I can tell you right now that I'm emotionally, financially, mentally drained on a good day. And if I was cradling an infant there, it would be as hard as if I was in a sling. So if you go to your or your stakeholders or your customers and you say, I want to cater for the first one, the person who is the amputee, they're going to go, no, the US Center for Statistics says there's only 26,000 of those. You can't make revenue off that. It's then you're designing your system for disability. But if you look at the temporary disabilities, the people who have motorcycle accidents or car accidents, that's 13 million. When you look at the situational disabilities, then it's another 21 million. So as a result, for catering for one and solving for one, extending to many, you're saving for 21 million people. Now, when we look at the people who have accessibility requirements in the world, there's 1 billion people, and we've got the stats on our Microsoft accessibility sites. 1 billion people there with accessibility requirements. Now, when you have their friends, family, and people and loved ones who are heavily invested in those individuals on a day-to-day basis, that's nearly half the world. So designing for accessibility is actually designing for the world, because you really are going to include those people and that revenue stream in there to be able to cater for that. Now you have your ticketing scenario. So this is a journey model that I did for the IATA World Conference on Accessible Flights. And I created a registration, navigation, and checkout process here. You can see here, you've got a site landing, registration, login, you search your flights, add to cart, checkout, ticketing, and experience. Now we superimpose that design spectrum there, and everything changes. And we create that innovation. So responsive design on site landing, a capture on registration, single sign-on, accessibility help desk on help, navigation, callback help, voice search, and then the checkout, we have SMS and email, and then right at the end we say, did we meet your requirements? If not, they change the entire process to be able to change the experience. And that's very important, because then we can learn from diversity. If we didn't actually meet the expectations, then we can change the process. So let's look at the next section, which is milestones. Now, in the beginning of software development, we had in the 1960s, it was big bang approach, monolith approach, and right at the end of it, we would implement bug fixes there, and the Hydra would be birthed there. You can see there, and it's the same with designing system. The Hydra is birthed there, and it's very difficult to slay the Hydra. But we're seeing now a shift left movement here. So shift left is do incremental testing and do bite-sized, agile-based changes throughout the process in a small investment rather than a large traditional investment. And as a result,
we're thinking about things earlier in the process rather than
the whole process
delivered.
Yeah. So accessibility doesn't become an afterthought. It becomes part of the process. When you're designing a button, is it accessible? When you're designing text, is it accessible? And as a result, the entire process then, right at the end, you don't even have accessibility bolted on there. It's just accessible. So think about a mobile phone. You would expect a mobile phone to have the ability to change the font size. But imagine you've got a mobile phone and you can't change the font size. And then you have to go in and recall all of that right at the end, though. A lot of the things that we take for granted are accessible. But we're starting to see a large shift left movement there to have incremental small investments rather than large investments. And we can do that also with tooling. So first of all, I want to introduce you that we're very proud of it, Accessibility Insights. So this is actually owned by one of my ex-managers, Donna, if you're listening to this, Donna Sakar, and she is the chief director of accessibility tech under Jenny Leafery for Accessibility Insights. And Accessibility Insights, you can access it on accessibilityinsights.io. And it really is a collection of tools that we use on an everyday basis at Microsoft that we open sourced for you to use. It's got Accessibility Insights for web, for Windows, CI/CD for Azure DevOps, for Android, and GitHub Actions. And I want to do a little bit of a demo for you here to show you exactly what you can get for Accessibility Insights. Now,
sure.
Jay, when
we got about 25 minutes, so please do.
So you said to me before, how do you check and do you have accessible software in the server? I can show you very quickly how you even can check that there. So this is the City Lights tourism site. And in here, you've got inaccessible and accessible. Now, the inaccessible looks exactly like a normal HTML site. And the accessible looks exactly like the inaccessible. So what they've done there is that they've done heinously terrible programming things there to actually make that accessible similar to the accessible. So if I go into the accessible here, and I go into the list items here, and if I view the list items here let's go inspect, you can see there that it's actual LI items, and a screen reader software can actually read that. So if you see there, let's make that bigger, then you've got list item controls there. Now, if you go to the inaccessible version of that, if you click on the inaccessible version, and I go there, and I look at inspect the HTML, you'll see there that it's BR tags, so paragraph tags. Now, a screen reader doesn't know what's spotting there because you've done heinous things to get that list item there. And it's the same with a lot of that. The image caption on the inaccessible isn't there. The tab, if I try to tab through here on keyboard, I just stop right there on quick menu. The accessible, I can actually tab all the way through there. You can see there, and it works pretty well. So how do you check your site? Now, you can go into the Chrome and Edge plugin. So we've got Chrome and Edge plugin for Accessibility Insights. You can download it from, and it's free from the Chrome web store or the Edge web store. And you can click on that little icon there, and you get all of these nice little tools and technologies here. But I want to show you something that you can do very quickly. I've got the inaccessible there, and I can click on FastPass. Now, FastPass tells you immediately what you want to do and change, and gives you a report very quickly on is your site, is your Android site, is your Windows app site accessible. So you can click on FastPass there, and it's going to say, wow, it's not accessible. There's some failures there. The color contrast is wrong. The haslang is wrong. The alt tag is wrong there. The link names are wrong. You can click through each one of those, and you can see a little bit of information. You can fix it there. But most importantly, also, it gives you a visual representation of exactly where those issues are. So I can click, and I can see, wait a second, that's the problem there. The success criteria, you can fix one of those, and then I can file the issues immediately into GitHub. And then I can log those queries there, and I can catch that Hydra before it actually becomes an issue here. So that's the one thing that FastPass gives you, but it also has a full compliancy checklist here. So you can go into here, you can go to the assessment, and the assessment runs through the full WCAG 2.1 compliancy there. You can get through everything there. You can run through that. And it has some nice tools and technologies that you can check that help you there. For example, tab stops. Where does the actual tab stops there, and why does it not work? Oh, it just ends right there. But the accessible version there, if I switch on tab stops here, and if I go tab stops, you can see there, I can navigate all the way through. So there's so many tools and technologies there. You can switch color on. You can go check region control there. And this is a tool that we use, and I use every day, because that tool is actually built into my DevOps that I do for my publishing of my material. As an advocate, I actually publish material. And this uses the engine there that we use every day to actually publish the material on Microsoft Learn. That accessibility fundamentals checks that we use accessible terminology and color and contrast there. And it uses the same tools and technology as accessibility insights. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a project here on how you can get started on your DevOps toolchain. Remember what I said to you, you really want to get that agile process going. Sure. And not Microsoft Teams. I want to create Visual Studio Code here. So this is the X toolkit, the exact same toolkit that Accessibility Insights uses. And I've got a little page here that is, let's go, a normal page here. And it says this is a test page with no violations. So it shouldn't put any violations. And this is an error page here with a shadow error. So if you know a DOM, it's got a shadow error. Now the unit test here, you can import this. And now this is written in Java because I am a Java developer. But I've done this test in Ruby on Rails. I've done this test on .NET and JavaScript. And all of them are in the Microsoft repository. You can go look for the X engine there with Accessibility Insights. It's open source there. And now you can run this as a test, a unit test there. So you can run this as a unit test there. And you can run that and it will come back in my test limit there as it's run here. So you can actually go in there and testing, and you can run all the tests there against your pages and run these there. Now, let's put this now into DevOps. So I've got this project here. Let's go back into Chrome.
So we want to automate all the things always.
Yes, so we want to shift left. So I've got this running on, and I've got two things I want to show you. One is that I've got it running on Azure DevOps. I've got that exact project running on Azure DevOps on X Maven. And you can see here on the pipelines, I just created a little X Maven pipeline. It's very simple to do that. I'm going to show you. You just go new pipeline on Azure DevOps here. You go, I'm going to use GitHub here. And I've got my project there called X Maven. X Maven, and it's Maven is a build tool, and X is the engine that we've partnered with GQ Labs for that. So I'm going to go X call Maven there, and you can use this also with .NET, and then configure your pipeline. I'm going to choose Maven there and run it there, save and run. That's all I needed to do to actually run and check my files. And now I can check my files online, or I can check them locally here. And then when it runs, I can constantly check it in as it. You can see the trigger on develop branch there, and it will run through here. And I've got it that is previously run here, and I've got a little dashboard here to run there. And you can see there, I previously run it today, and I've got my builds running here, and everything is hunky-dory. And yeah, so let's just wait for it to come here. Test results there. There's my test results that I ran there. And you can summarize it there. And the tests come through. 35 tests ran. And I ran this earlier today, though. Yeah, so and it's very simple. But what about GitHub Actions? So I can go into github.com. And I created a repo just for you, Jay, today. Here we here. And I've got a little repo here, and I just forked the repo for the GitHub Actions there. You can see the Accessibility Insights action here. And you can go into your GitHub Actions here, and I've got my build here. And when I click on my build here, I can run this again, build and check, and I can go into the test here, run the test there. And even it failed on the accessibility test, but it's meant to fail. And it gives you a nice report, accessibility actions there. And all of this is open source. You can see there it comes from Microsoft.com, Accessibility Insights action here. This is really recent. It's only about a month old here. So you can run it in GitHub Actions. You can run it on Azure DevOps. And you can integrate all of these into your DevOps processes. Now, that means that you never have to bolt on the Hydra at the end of it. But, Jay, some of our customers have said to us, we can't change the underlying HTML source code. We don't know what to do. And this is the next demo I want to show you about Immersive Reader. So Immersive Reader, if you don't know it about it, so Immersive Reader is a tool that makes any experience that you have, even in Microsoft Teams, in Edge, in OneNote. Immersive Reader makes software accessible. So I've got Immersive Reader, and I've got a little cognitive services that I've set up in Azure. It cost me like a cents per year. I'm just going to go in and open it here. Let's go here. So here's the, let's just see here. No, that's the computer vision. That's the next demo, open recent. And I want to see, I do need more glasses here, hey? Cognitive services. There we go, Immersive Reader. So I've got a little HTML page here that I've got. It's written in index.jsp, and it just says here, I want to create an immersive experience, and I want to say the text. Immersive Reader is a tool that implements proven technologies to improve reading. And then it's got languages here. So it's got all of these languages. And then also I want to create an experience for people with the autism spectrum. So I want to be able to isolate the line interface there, improve the font size, and then maybe I want to do it in Spanish. So I've got a little token that I can create, and then I want to run this token here and in a Tomcat 7 server, run here, and it's going to bind to port 8888. And then it's going to run this here with a little bit of JavaScript. And let's go into our little page here. I want to go 8888, and then I can go localhost 8888. Now it's got immersive reader, so I can make that a little bit bigger here. So you can see the immersive reader. Now this may not be immersive for a lot of people, so I can click on the little button. What that does, it takes the text of the page and goes into Azure Cognitive Services and creates an immersive experience. Watch this, Jay. So I click on immersive reader. It might not do it with sound because I don't think I shared my screen with sound there. I don't know if you can actually do that with StreamYard. So I'll just play it through my...
You got to do it when you select it, you have to pick like a Chrome tab.
I definitely want to do that again. Can I do that again for you?
Yeah.
Let me stand up here and I want to stop screening.
Yeah.
And then I want to go here and share
while you're
screen.
doing that, I'll remind everybody of some polls. So there's the poll that you can take. We're asking, does your organization prioritize accessibility when creating software or services? Go check out the poll. Take it now. Let me know. I want to hear. You can see we've got some people already answering. And of course, please send questions in. We've got about less than 15 minutes left. And so there's been so much we've covered already. All right, Rory, I'm going to bring you back in.
Okay, so now I've got the font. I've lowered the font a little bit there. And now you can see here, it's reading the text that I've got. I don't know if you can hear that, though. Let's just see. Okay, so now I can read it back to me. And I can also click on each one of those, and I can click on that. Now, I haven't changed my website. I've bolted on, the Hydra is dead, but I've literally cut every neck off the Hydra there. Mm-hmm. Now I can actually go in and I can change this. And for the neurodiverse spectrum, I can switch on the line feed there. I can go one line or many there. I can switch on picture dictionary. And I want to change it into Spanish because my audience might be Spanish here. And I want to go into there. Let's find Spanish. And we want to go Spanish Spain. And I want to change the whole document.
Gotcha.
So not only can I actually change the entire document, but I can actually go in and translate it. And now I'm innovative. Watch when it goes to different languages. Even though it's doing Spanish, it'll change to Japanese and other languages.
El lector inmersivo está disponible en muchos idiomas. El lector inmersivo está disponible en varios idiomas. Los lectores inmersivos admiten...
Okay, I think it actually translated the Japanese. Let me go put it back there. That was very interesting. I didn't realize it could actually translate the Japanese. But if I go back into English here, choose a language. Let's find English. Wow, you think I could actually not find English? United States has a different language of English. Okay, let's go English United Kingdom. The Queen's English. Yes,
we speak kind of a mangled version of the language.
Let me go switch on line focus here. But if I click on here, that's Arabic, and if I click on Arabic, then I can actually get the English version of that and translate it directly there. So we've catered for, and this is what we've done. We've catered for accessibility, but we've also innovative and created revenue stream because we've now created translation services for this, and this is very important. So now we've got that innovative style, and now we're starting to think. Wait a second. Now I can release my product suite to the Arabic community and also or the people with accessibility, and that's really what Immersive Reader brings to you. The final demo that I want to show you here is how we got to that PowerPoint issue, and that is the NoCaps challenge. So if you go and you type in nocaps.org, I think that's nocaps.org. Yes, nocaps.org. Nocaps.org is a challenge that Facebook uses, and it basically says we don't want any captions on our images. We want an AI to do it better than a human being. So we entered into that with a design that we had, and we beat the human beings into be able to caption images and better than our AI does it better than that. So you can go in here and we can click on leaderboard and check this leaderboard. Check how cool this is, Jay. Last time I checked it, it was also Microsoft. Let's see here. Let's go leaderboard here. I think they might have started a new phase here, test phase here. Okay, so they have started a new phase here, overview. But the phase is on the leaderboard. Microsoft actually is winning. So let's go entire data set here. So this is a new phase here. So we won't hop on that. But we are on the top of the no caps challenge. And what we did there, if you go into no caps here, so let's go into no caps, is that we took the best of AI that came with linguistics, so being a language understanding, and we paired that with the ability to actually use image captioning. Because when you look at someone, for example, myself, and I'm sitting here, you might not understand that I'm sitting in front of a keyboard and I can't reach the keyboard, or I'm batting to do that. But with linguistics, you can set context into your images. So I've got a nice little demo that I want to show you, and we're going to look at an image here, and we're going to try explain that image, and we're going to see if we can do it better than a computer. So let's go into computer vision here. These are the standard SDKs. I haven't really changed a lot here. So let's go find that image that we have here, and there we go. And I just took this image. This was a recent demo that I did. And if I show you this in Chrome and I go here, so if you explain that image here, how would you explain that image, Jay?
I would say it's a woman with glasses and brown hair in a red sweatshirt and blue jeans in a wheelchair getting off of a train.
Okay, so that is very good, but it's over descriptive. Now, the reason it's over descriptive is because when you have a screen reader, you want to create an immersive experience that people can read the images there without having to have like a paragraph of text for everything. Because not only is that paragraph of text, it leads them on the wrong path, but it also can overwhelm them. So let's see what the AI does with that image there, because you only want to give that descriptive that matches the context necessary to give the kind of a tidbit of information. So let's run this, and I've got the cognitive services here and path to the remote image, and I've got similar to Immersive Reader. I can pull out extracts here. I can also look at the features in the image, like for example tags, faces there, emotional. Is it an adult image there? Has it got racy content? What is the color scheme? Is it got a nice color profile there? Are there celebrities there? Landmarks there? So I'm going to run this here. Run Java, and you'll see there that it's going to go get my token from Azure Cognitive Services. It's going to analyze the image from the URL, and it's going to bring me back the description that it deems out of billions of descriptions that is best. And it says a person sitting in a wheelchair next to a train. Simple as that. And if you look at what we do in PowerPoint, that's exactly what you need. It's just a person sitting in a wheelchair next to a train. You did a sweater and glasses and everything like that, but you didn't need that. And the reason we know this works is because we've actually put it online, and we've helped people use reinforcement learning, and they helped us learn which is the best mechanism for that. And that's really how we created innovation. If you go into PowerPoint, let's go into PowerPoint here. Let's go to PowerPoint. We want to go to PowerPoint. Now, if you go into PowerPoint and you click on the check accessibility, so if you go into review and you go check accessibility, it will go in and check all of the alt images here. So you can see there missing alt images there, and it will help you look for the title, the reading order, the suggested alternate text, and that's all using cognitive services, because we've taken our AI and we've helped people and made it. So that really is what I wanted to tell you and show you today. There are some more slides there, but don't worry about those. I want to leave you with a summary of what we discussed today, which is in conclusion, have empathy, understand your persona spectrums, understand that you're designing your systems for everyone, and create those empathy labs and become the customers that use your systems. Shift left. Use the tools and technologies that Microsoft has. You can go to accessibilityinsights.io. It's got a lot of nice tools and technology. You saw how easy it was for me to really create innovation around that. Automate an AI. So use the immersive reader where you can't actually change your system there. And then you can access all of that on aka.ms/accessibility fundamentals. It teaches you about how to do that. And that paired with accessibilityinsights.io really creates what Bill Gates summed up as in the better quality of life and empowering everyone in every organization to do more.
Wonderful. I love it, Rory. So we're almost down to it. And I just want to kind of wrap up with everyone. One, please go check out this URL. You can go over to Microsoft Learn and you will get all sorts of awesome education on accessibility fundamentals. So head over that way. You'll really benefit from it. And I think the people that end up using the software and services that you create will benefit from it as well. Rory, let's take a look at our poll results because we're just about out of time. 60% say no, and I think that's a little too common nowadays. And so hopefully by watching this session with myself and Rory today, you can bring these ideas and these concepts into your organization and make recommendations on ways that you can help improve accessibility and making all your software more available to everyone. So Rory, we're getting close to the end, and I want to remind everybody that they can find you on Twitter at Rory Preddy. You do a lot around Java, so I'd love to hear, is there anything you got coming up? Any other things you'd like people to share just before we head out of here?
So I love the fact that I showed this in Java. I showed Maven and I showed Tomcat and all of these services. But you can do this in .NET. You can do this in JavaScript. I even did a Ruby on Rails conference that I showed accessibility. And the cornerstone to understand is that technology is innovation. The idea behind tech is, I think it's the Greek term. It means build, and it's us as builders. We owe it to the world to be able to innovate and to create the assumption that when we create software, we look at everyone. We understand, from a technology point of view, that we want to create software for everyone to use this, because at the end of the day, we're all going to need to use this software in an accessible way eventually. And that video that you showed my eyesight is eventually going to fail worse. And we're all going to enter, please, hopefully into the silver generation. So what we're doing is we're making our lives better by empowering others in every organization. What we're doing is we're creating a world that will ensure that our lives, when we get to that technology, will be better for everyone.
Absolutely. Such a great way to put it. So Rory, I want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. I think that I've learned so much more than I already knew. And I'm really appreciative that you were able to share all of those different resources that people can access in order to add accessibility as a priority as opposed to an afterthought. And so we've got one of the big things is the WCAG overview, or WCAG, however you want to pronounce it. Go check out those guidelines, check out this website, learn more, get yourself educated, and implement those ideals. Because I think it's super, super useful for not just yourself, but for everyone to understand how this works and how it's part and the things that you should consider. So Rory, with that being said, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. I know it's a little bit later than it is here, and so I really do appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to talk with us.
Well, hopefully when I come back to New York, I can visit you, and they'll change that camera system there to cater for everyone, even people with disabilities, to be able to take those pictures. And then else, I can just find another family, lift me up. I have lost a lot of weight recently, so it'll be a way easier exercise for them.
Wonderful. So Rory, let's give everybody the big wave goodbye and say thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next week. This has been Azure Fun Bites. My guest has been Rory Preddy. I'll see you next time.
Cheers, everyone.